What happens when the boss, the man who built a company from the ground up, decides to walk into his own business undercover? What happens when he sees his workers not just as employees, but as real people? People with dreams, struggles, and a commitment to family so deep that it could change everything he thought he knew about his company. Let's dive in to see the story unfold. In the small town of Pinehurst, there stood a lumberyard known for its premium wood products, its craftsmanship, and above all, its solid reputation. The name Keller Lumber was recognized across the region, not just for the quality of its wood, but for the man who ran it, Tom Keller. Tom wasn't just any businessman. He was the founder, the heart, and the face of the company. A man in his mid-50s, he had always been a hands-on leader. His rugged hands were the result of years spent lifting heavy logs and managing his business. His steel blue eyes revealed his focus, but also the weight of responsibility that came with leading a successful company. Tom had built Keller Lumber with his own hands. From the very beginning, he worked tirelessly, sacrificed his personal life, and pushed his workers to strive for excellence. Over the years, Keller Lumber grew into one of the largest lumberyards in the state. But with success came pressure, and Tom knew that somewhere along the way, he'd become distant from his workers, from his roots, and even from his own family. In a moment of reflection, Tom realized he needed to reconnect, not just with his business, but with the people who made it all possible. That's when the idea hit him. What if he went undercover to see what life was like for the workers on the ground? What if he could understand the heart of his company from the inside out? Tom didn't tell anyone at Keller Lumber about his undercover mission. He donned a simple work shirt, faded jeans, and a baseball cap to disguise himself. He wasn't looking for luxury or comfort. He wanted to experience the day-to-day grind of his employees, the people who were the true backbone of his business. As he walked through the gates of Keller Lumber, the scent of fresh-cut wood filled his senses. He was surprised by how peaceful the place felt despite the heavy machinery in the background. He had always imagined it to be a place of constant hustle, but here there was a rhythm, a harmony between the workers, the machines, and the earth itself. Tom's first stop was the assembly line. A man named Larry, one of the older workers, caught his attention immediately. Larry had been with Keller Lumber for over 25 years. Tom introduced himself as Tom Jones, an assumed name, and asked if Larry could show him around. Larry was more than willing. "We've got a good thing going here, son. This isn't just a job for us, it's a family," he said as he wiped the sweat from his brow. His gruff voice was softened by something in his tone, something that Tom couldn't quite place. As they walked, Larry spoke of the long hours, the physical toll of the work, and how important it was to always give 100%. But what struck Tom the most was Larry's pride in his family. "Every nail we hammer, every plank we measure, it's all for them. My wife, my kids," Larry said, a distant look in his eyes. "I may not have a fancy car or a big house, but I've got something better, a life worth living, because it's all for them." Tom, feeling a knot in his throat, couldn't help but reflect. It was clear that Larry wasn't just working for a paycheck. He was working for something much more precious, his family's future. Tom's second stop was a young man named Cody, a worker in his late 20s. Cody was the kind of employee who worked tirelessly but always kept to himself. Tom noticed Cody sitting alone during his break, his lunch untouched, staring at his phone. Curious, Tom struck up a conversation. "Hey, Cody, everything okay?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Cody looked up, his face drawn and tired. "Yeah, just thinking about stuff," he muttered, then shrugged. As the conversation unfolded, Tom learned something that left him speechless. Cody wasn't just working to get by. He was working to pay off his father's medical bills. His father had been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and Cody had taken on the responsibility of covering the costs. "I work double shifts just to keep up," Cody said, his voice tinged with exhaustion. "I don't mind the hours. It's hard, you know. But I made a promise to my dad. I'm going to keep that promise." Tom, whose wealth had been built on business deals and expansion, was struck by the weight of Cody's words. This wasn't just about work, it was about love. Cody wasn't working for himself. He was working for a father who had given him life, and now he was giving everything back. Later that day, Tom found himself sitting in the break room, watching the workers interact. There was something extraordinary about the way they treated each other. It wasn't just camaraderie, it was a sense of belonging. They weren't just colleagues. They were a team, a family, bound together by shared struggles and common goals. As Tom continued to observe, a man named Hank approached him. Hank was a burly man in his early 40s who had worked at Keller Lumber for over 10 years. He was a man of few words but had a deep respect for those around him. When Tom introduced himself as Tom Jones, Hank didn't seem surprised. Instead, he pulled up a chair and sat beside him. "You know, Tom," Hank began, "most people think of this place as just a job, but for us, it's something more. We work because we believe in something bigger than the paycheck." Tom, still in shock from the stories he had heard today, nodded slowly. "What do you mean by something bigger?" Hank smiled. "You've probably never had to go without, have you? Never had to choose between feeding your kids or paying the rent. But here, we've all been there. We're not just building houses with wood, man. We're building lives." Tom sat back in his chair, the weight of Hank's words sinking in. For the first time in years, he felt a wave of humility wash over him. These weren't just employees. They were fathers, sons, brothers, people who carried the responsibility of their families on their shoulders every day. At the end of the week, Tom knew it was time to reveal himself. He gathered all the workers in the warehouse and with a deep breath removed his baseball cap. The room fell silent as they saw the familiar face of their boss, Thomas Keller. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, Larry stepped forward, his eyes wide in disbelief. "You? You're the boss? All this time it was you?" Tom nodded slowly. "Yes, it was me. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for showing me what this company is really about, what it means to work, to sacrifice, and to love. You've taught me more than I could ever teach you." There was a long pause, and then the room erupted into applause. But it wasn't just a cheer for the boss. It was a cheer for the workers, for the heart of the company that had remained hidden for so long. In the weeks that followed, Tom made some important changes at Keller Lumber. He didn't just improve the work conditions. He made sure that the company supported its workers in ways he had never imagined. He set up scholarships for their children, created health plans that covered families, and most importantly, he made sure that his workers knew that they weren't just employees. They were part of the Keller Lumber family. Tom's undercover mission had revealed something he hadn't expected: the true meaning of commitment. It wasn't just about business, profits, or expansion. It was about people, about families. The workers of Keller Lumber weren't just punching a clock. They were living with purpose, sacrificing for their loved ones, and building legacies that would last long after the wood was gone. And in the end, Tom Keller learned the greatest lesson of all. Business is not just about making money. It's about making a difference in the lives of those who matter most. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.